Greetings, metaphysicians. This is episode 177, the Cold and Flu Repair Disc. This episode describes a tool that fits in your pocket that can save you from getting sick or prevent you from having super long illnesses over and over and over again. I hope that you listen in and enjoy the episode.
You're listening to Let's Get Metaphysical. This podcast explores the spiritual and metaphysical world through the experiences and opinions of the host and those interviewed. It should not necessarily be seen as direct endorsement or personal advice to our listeners. We encourage you to use your own discernment, judgment, and intuition regarding anything you learn from this show. The statements and advice offered in this podcast are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or medical condition, and are not substitutes for prudent medical care offered by licensed medical professionals. References to healing or treatments in this episode are describing faith-based blessings performed by God and the master healing angels. Neither this episode nor any part of it may be copied, transcribed, distorted, sold, republished, or distributed without first receiving the express written permission of both the CMA International Foundation and Up and Awaken Productions.
Let's get meta.
Welcome to the Let's Get Metaphysical podcast. I'm your host, Renata Maniaci. Here to remind you, you are a spiritual being having a temporary human experience here on lovely planet Earth. Enjoy it. This is Season 8, Angelic Reformation, and this is Episode 177, The Cold and Flu Repair Disc. This season is all about the body of knowledge known as Angelic Reformation, as well as a look at each of its tools. Angelic Reformation is what we call the tools, processes, and rapid spiritual development work that has been presented through the teacher, Master John Douglas, by his companions, the Master Angels. It is about the intentional evolution of your consciousness without the use or necessity of outside substances or other interventions. It is a set of spiritual development tools that anyone can choose to use alongside any existing spiritual practice, religion, or tradition, if desired. We are doing a whole season on this topic because the purpose of this podcast, in part, is to encourage a deeper understanding of the invisible and unseen world that nonetheless affects us as intimately as the visible and seen aspects. After 9 years of using the tools of Angelic Reformation, I have found that each tool has helped me gain a deeper and truer understanding of the unseen and unknown influences affecting us at all times, be they energetic, karmic, microbial, parasitic, demonic, angelic, or otherwise. If you have not yet listened to the first 2 episodes for this season, please go ahead and listen to episode 168, Angelic Reformation, and episode 169, The Evolution of Consciousness, before listening into this one. They will provide needed context for what we are talking about. Now, if you are ready, then let's get meta. Master Angels, I humbly request your presence, guidance, and support through this episode. Please help these words to be useful to all listeners on their evolutionary journey. Let me know the truth, speak the truth, become the truth, and be the truth. And please let this episode reach whoever needs to hear it. Thank you with full faith. Bless creation. Today we are talking about the cold and flu repair disc. As stated in previous episodes, Angelic Reformation contains a few different aspects. The processes, which are MP3s that are listened to and rapidly develop one's consciousness in specific various areas. The events, such as the spring and fall tour events and the advanced knowledge course, which all convey innumerable healings and blessings for the attendees, and the tools, which are physical objects, like the repair discs and the personal pendant, which are imbued with numerous and specific healing and blessings to help us and our pets in various ways. Here's the description of the cold and flu disc direct from the website where it can be purchased at globalcma.org. Colds, flus, bacteria, sore throats, streptococcus, enlarged tonsils, chest congestion, sinus infections, and stomach flus are common illnesses or problems that can cause suffering. The Master Angels can disintegrate various bacterias and viruses such as the common cold and influenza. Suggestion for use: place the cold and flu repair directed prayer disc on the aggravated area of the body for 30 seconds. The cold and flu repair disc is a sterling silver plated disc. It comes with a protective plastic case. Now, before I go in and share my own experiences with the cold and flu disc, I am going to play a few testimonials from people who use this disc regularly. Enjoy.
My name is Melissa. I live in southern Utah. I've been teaching middle school for 18 years, and it felt like this school year was one of the worst as far as sickness goes. I think one or two students at least every day were coughing, sneezing, requesting to go home because of illness. I only had one little tiny cold this year, and I truly believe it was because of our miraculous cold and flu disc that Master John and the Master Angels have provided. Every single night before I went to bed, I would take my cold and flu disc, place it on my chest, and ask the Master Angels to please activate it. Sometimes throughout the school day, if there was a particularly sick student in my classroom, I would take a private moment and request that the cold and flu disc be activated. I am so thankful for this miraculous blessing in my life.
Hi, this is Laura, and I live in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania. I want to tell you a story about the cold and flu disc. It's not about myself, it's about my granddaughter. I use the cold and flu disc all the time whenever I have any postnasal drip or I think I've been connected with some kind of pathogen, and it's always helpful. But my granddaughter, I started using it with her when she ended up in the hospital. Her whole family, my son and daughter-in-law, and her all ended up in the hospital with listeria. And John gratefully killed the listeria, but they were still pretty sick for a while. And I started putting the cold and flu disc on my granddaughter, and she connected with it in this very sweet way. And so whenever I go up there and she has a little bit of a sniffle or she has a flu, we use the cold and flu disc for her, and she likes to just put it on. She's very gentle and very sensitive with it. I feel like the cold and flu disc is a way for her to connect with the angels in this very tangible way. She loves it. She just has such a great relationship to the disc.
Hi, this is Dave.
And Audie and our baby Joseph.
And we are in Austin, Texas with a testimonial for the cold and flu disc.
We had just moved to Austin and our baby got his first cold. And of course we panicked because since we had just moved, we hadn't had time to find a doctor yet. But luckily we did have our cold and flu disc. We put it on him and he was sick for just maybe a day and a half. He had the sniffles and a couple of coughs, and that was it. He was perfectly healthy after a day and a half.
And the greatest thing was putting the cold and flu disc on his chest, and he would grab it and smile and giggle. And it's like he knew just instinctively that this thing was getting him better. And actually, he could probably even see the angels working on him better than we could.
Thank you so much, Master John and the Master Angels. The cold and flu disc has saved us so many times, but This one was definitely memorable. We'll never forget.
Another big thank you to all who shared their experiences with the cold and flu disc with us for this episode. Thank you so much. And I just want to point out something that many of us who use these tools have noticed, and 2 of these testimonials pointed out today. Children love these tools, and not just children, but also pets. And this has been something that's been noticed over and over and over again throughout the vast community of people who use these tools. I have a theory about this, of course. I feel that children are closer to source, having just come from source. And as we get older, we get further and further away, except for when we are getting closer to our own death and we go back closer to source. This is my own personal opinion. But in this is that I feel like babies and young children can still see things that adults and older children cannot, that they kind of grow out of, such as angels and energy and other influences around us that we mostly cannot see, most adults and older children cannot see. So that's a theory on that. But also I've just seen how young children and babies, so like younger than school age, I feel like this starts to change around 5, 6, 7-year-olds. And pets, on the other hand, always seem to love these tools. I have been close to several pets who really enjoy the processes while they are played, whether they're cats or dogs. They will come into the room and lay down if a process is playing out loud. This also extends to events being listened to. If someone is listening to a tour event, for example, out loud, the animals in the house will come and lay down and be in the room during that. So this has happened so many times that it's not just a coincidence. There's also several stories, as you just heard, a few of them, of children and pets loving the discs, loving the body disc or the cold and flu disc, other tools, because on some level they know that it's helping them, or they can maybe even see it helping them. We don't know what animals can see that we can't see specifically, or at least sense or feel with their senses. So it is my personal opinion that children and animals are even more attuned to these tools than, say, I am, because of their either closeness to source or their higher sense perception. So let me go into my personal experience with the cold and flu disc. As you've heard in the other previous episodes, this one is the same. There's just too many to count. This is a tool that I carry with me at all times. It is about the size of a silver dollar. That's the only thing that I can think of to compare it to size-wise, if people know what that is. It is always with me. Especially when I travel, it is invaluable when you're on planes, trains, automobiles, anything like that, where there's a whole bunch of people in airports, train stations, things like this. There's just more of an opportunity for someone to pass something to you, or touching a handle that has been touched by somebody that's sick, and etc. So I especially see the uses of this tool when I'm traveling, but I do keep it with me wherever I go. I got in the habit a long time ago of using it on my way back home after being in town at a grocery store or out and about running errands, really any time, and just using it on my chest for 30 seconds before I walk back into my own home, making sure that I'm clear and not bringing anything into my home. It stays with me in whatever bag I'm carrying along with the body repair disc and the mold repair disc, which we're going to talk about next time. And one of the ways that I can truly tell how amazing it is by how infrequently I get sick. Sometimes it's hard to prove. As with all of these episodes, you'll see these testimonials are people's personal testimonials, their own personal experiences with these tools and processes. And even with those, even though they're real and true experiences, it still can be hard to prove that it was this tool that did the thing. And by that, it's especially can be difficult for people listening to it. You know, those of you listening to these episodes, for those of us using these tools, we know, we can feel it. There was a before and there's an after. And for us, this is a true, real experience. But I understand that listening to these testimonials is kind of like, well, there's going to be people out there that can talk around it. Well, that could have been this, that could have been that. You might not have been sick, or it might have been this other thing that made you feel better that you're not accounting for. And I get all of that. Because I was one of those people until I started using these tools for myself. And it's just obvious. It's just evident that these are what is happening. But to go back to what I was saying, one of the ways that proves to me that these work is by how infrequently I get sick, especially when I'm around people who are sick. And in some cases, even living with people who have been sick where I have not gotten sick. Now, a few years ago, the world had this pandemic where lots of people were getting sick. I never got that particular illness. And I totally credit the cold and flu repair disc. There has been several times when I've been traveling where everyone around me is sick or coughing and sneezing, and it would have just only been natural for me to get sick, except for the fact that I was using my cold and flu repair disc. Now, a thing to realize about these discs, especially this one, if you have already gotten sick, if whatever is befalling you has had time to incubate in your system and you're already kind of full-blown sick, using this disc is not going to immediately disappear your illness. It can't do that once it takes hold. It will get you through it faster, but it won't just immediately, you'll be like coughing and spluttering and in the thick of it 1 second and the next second not be, because your body has then taken this on and needs to go through a process to clear out what has happened. One of the amazing things about this disc is that if you start to feel something, it's best to use the cold and flu repair disc right away, nip it in the bud, so to speak. And the amount of times where I've seen this work on myself and on other people it's just innumerable. Not only have I mean, this is why I keep it on me all the time. If I start to feel any kind of way, I'll use it immediately so that it nips it in the bud before it can inoculate, or not inoculate, but before it can really get into my system and infect different systems in my body, because that's when you really have to go through it. Even though the disc will speed up that process, that healing process, once it's already in you, it takes time. A few of the more evident miraculous instances of this is when friends of mine who are not using these discs and processes use this disc in an instance where they're starting to feel sick. So I've even, it depends on the situation. This is never something that I have ever pressed on anybody or insisted that they use. It's not like that. You wouldn't do that with any other kind of tool, or you shouldn't, I guess. And I certainly don't. But there will be times when I'm with other people, even people that I don't know super well, but they're, somebody will mention, oh, I have an ache or a pain here, or I feel like I'm starting to come down with something. If the energy is right, if the person is open, sometimes I'll mention, hey, like, this won't hurt you. I have this tool that you can place on your chest that might help you feel better. That's just a judgment call. Some people are open to it, some people aren't. And it's not about pushing it onto people, but suffice it to say that when this has come up, I've seen with my own eyes several times people right away say, oh, I feel like that just took care of it. Oh, I think whatever I was feeling just disappeared. This has happened over and over and over again, especially if it's in, like I said, that right moment before something fully takes hold of you that you then have to kind of process and your body has to go through. And it's kind of funny because I've stated this in previous episodes. Those of us who use these tools all the time, it's easy for us to get complacent. Like, literally, I use this every day. So it's almost like the novelty has worn off, which is kind of crazy because it is essentially an object that I'm placing on my body for 30 seconds that is somehow disintegrating or killing viruses, bacteria, etc., that would and could make me very sick. So to be blasé about something that can do that is crazy in itself. But that's just what happens when we get used to something. We take it for granted. But that complete new people to these tools, and people who don't continue to use them, have this experience, felt one way 1 second, and the next second don't feel anything, they feel back to normal, that they can have that and recognize that is just more evidence that this is something that works. And what's even more interesting is most of these people, the grand majority of these people, will go on with their lives and not be like, oh, I need to get one of those. They'll be like, oh, thanks, and move on with their life, which is totally fine. Nothing wrong with that at all. It's just, on a bigger picture, it's kind of funny. It's like, well, if this thing just, helped you to feel better from something that was starting to feel really bad, wouldn't you want to also keep it with you at all times? Everyone's different and there's no judgment here. It's just kind of interesting because I guess I'm trying to say it's so innocuous. It's just like in my pocket or in my purse, and it gets used and then it's done and you move on with your life. It is such a part of my everyday experience that even though it is literally doing a miraculous process, and by miraculous, I mean a process that is true and within the laws of universal truth and universal nature that we just don't know about yet. It is doing those processes, but to us it's miraculous because we don't know about it. That in itself is just mind-blowing, but also just so normal now because I use it all the time. So that's just to convey a sense of kind of awe and wonder when I really think about how many times this tool has saved me from becoming ill, that it's unfathomable, and yet it's still something that I carry in my pocket and offer to people just kind of normally if I see a need or see an opening for somebody that it might help. So it's just this incredible tool that you can keep in your pocket and carry with you at all times that can truly save you from becoming really sick. The cold and flu repair disc costs $150. It never stops working. It is continually added to and updated when appropriate by the master angels without needing to purchase another. And why is this? I just want to go into this for a second. There are new things that come online, we could say, all the time. It's not like 100 years ago we had all of the colds and flus that were possible and we still have those exact colds and flus today. Things evolve, things change, and unfortunately, it seems like things are being manufactured to make us sick, which I'm not going to go into here, but it sure seems like that sometimes with all these new things that were never on the planet before. And that is why this is continually updated by the master angels, again, without needing to purchase another. Purchasing this disc also includes a link to a more in-depth talk called A Guide to the Cold and Flu Repair Directed Prayer Disc. And this is a talk from Master John Douglas explaining this tool and what it does, which I highly recommend listening to. Master John Douglas is the living conduit who has brought these spiritual technologies into existence from the master angels. So there really is truly no better person to hear from regarding the proper use of these tools. And I guess I just want to take a moment to express my own gratitude for the cold and flu repair disc and each of the tools that I've talked about so far and each of the tools that's coming in the rest of this season. I'm not being paid to talk about this body of knowledge or getting any kickbacks in any way. This is something I'm talking about because it has truly changed my life. All of these tools have truly changed my life. And the best thing I can do is to share it with people who are open to it, not for any kind of gain of my own, but just as like a pay it forward, and to offer my experience and my gratitude for these things that I may never truly fully understand just how much they've helped me, even though I know specific moments very clearly when they have helped me. So I guess this season in part is my own personal way of giving homage to this body of knowledge. It is something that has changed my life for the better. It's something that I'm extremely grateful for, and it's something that I truly believe in and have seen over and over how it can help people. These various tools, how they have helped people, both immediately by killing a virus, for example, with the cold and flu repair disc, or over time through the use of the processes. Subconscious repair, for example, has completely changed my life in extraordinary ways. So I'm going to leave it there for today. We will continue with the mold, fungus, and dust mite repair disc in our next episode. If you are interested in looking into these tools or finding out more, visit globalcma.org. This is not a journey for everyone, but it is available to anyone interested. As always, thank you for listening. Stay positive, stay safe, and stay meta.
The Let's Get Metaphysical podcast is an Up, and Awaken production and is produced and hosted by Renata Maniaci. Our intention is to raise the vibration of the planet by sharing, validating, and normalizing spiritual and metaphysical experiences. The Let's Get Meta podcast is inspired by angels and supported by angels. If you would like to be a patron angel of the podcast, visit patreon.com/letsgetmeta. Thank you for listening. Stay meta.
Let's get meta.
Metaphysical.
Let's get meta.
Metaphysical.
Let's get meta.
Metaphysical.
Let's get meta.
Metaphysical.